I have something to suggest, but also use it very carefully.
Why are you not a believer of leverage?
I'm not a believer. I think leverage very often it's wrongly used. I believe in leverage if it's used properly, but I guess most of the time, new traders especially leverage, especially when it's going up, and like what's happening now in China stocks. If you have leverage into say Tencent or Alibaba when it was going up, then now you would see that you can get into margin calls and stuff. So leverage is potentially quite dangerous lah. And when it's coming down, you realize that it's very scary because you know you don't have that cash. You're on borrowing, and you might make very emotional decisions. That's why I think leverage, if you can stay out of it, that's just to simplify things.
Even seasoned investors also get burned while using leverage, correct? Do you know
Yes,
any cases of that?
yes, I actually remember a story from a book I read before called 100 Bagger. You can go and check it out. This story is actually on Benjamin Graham, which is Warren Buffett's teacher. So back then in 1920s, 1930s, if I'm not wrong, he actually was in the stock market investing very heavily with leverage. And then, him being such a astute investor, he wanted to get more advice also. So he actually talked to a seasoned businessman, a retired businessman. And what happened was the advice was actually for him to cut back on leverage, even though he knows what he's doing. Because quite simply, when you're on leverage, it makes you very emotional. That's why Warren Buffett himself, he's also said leverage, if can avoid, it's a weapon of destruction, although not that extreme all the time.
That stress, it doesn't allow you to think properly.
Yes, exactly. There's pressure, lah. You know, making good decisions, especially when to buy, when to sell, you need to have a calm mind. You need to know that you are okay to be wrong for a period of time. And leverage just gives it
Yes.
more pressure, lah.
A lot of financial experts says that when we invest, right, we should only invest with the amount that we can lose, right?
Yes, there's
So
there's some
if we
truth to
are,
it.
what do you mean by that?
So, as in, if you know that you only have $20,000 and you are invested in market with $50,000, if it comes down by say 50%, you are wiped out already, because your leverage gives you a big position that you don't have enough cash to pay off. And before you get down by 50%, there'll be margin costs along the way, already, which forces you to sell. And as we
Okay.
know, you need to buy low, sell high. If you are on the way
Yes.
down, you're forced to sell, then that's where your equation gets very bad.
Now that we have talked about the bad side, do you have any ideas on like when we can use leverage?
I think margins from a brokerage account, very easily accessible nowadays, but also it gets you very easily caught in margin costs. I have something to suggest, but also use it very carefully. I've actually borrowed before from banks' balance transfers. Usually the interest rate is quite low, 1-2% thereabouts, and it's a fixed deadline in terms of payment, which means if you borrow 10,000 out from a balance transfer, you repay it in 6 months' time. So that kind of leverage easier to manage. Not that it's 100% safe. It's just easier to manage and just puts less pressure on you with regards to margin call. So if margin call is a term that is, not even familiar, then maybe don't even dabble in leverage at all. Just fully invest with your cash. That is more than often than not good enough. So as always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment sections in our YouTube. We'll try to answer them. And again, smash on the like button because it helps us keep this podcast going.